This is Michael W. Ford. This video is going to be a kind of question and answer that many of you sent in or posted on my Facebook, YouTube, etc. And it's based around my grimoire Dragon of the Two Flames. Now, the reason I chose this one, obviously, because it's the most significant grimoire to me to date, but it also will answer a lot of questions surrounding Luciferianism as a whole. One of the first questions was, what is a paradigm? And how do you utilize a paradigm? What's its purpose? A paradigm, and I'll give you an example, is a point of view towards a magical will. So what's that mean? Let's take in Dragon of the Two Flames, you have the Baal cycle. Baal cycle is Yam, or Leviathan, who represents the chaotic primordial sea, raw aggression, mastery. And then you have Baal, which Baal Hadad is the storm god, who establishes through heavy-handed ways order and the continued growth and excellence towards self-excellence of the mind of people. Now, if you were a Luciferian, which one would you pick? Well, automatically, Luciferians would say, Leviathan. Well, yes and no. You would use Leviathan for works of encircling and raising up primordial power, but establishing and consistent order in your life, you would focus on Baal and what Baal Hadad represents. So paradigms are different ways of looking if you were to assume and put on the deific mask, the God form, if you will, the shell of that power. Your inner representation would fill that, and that's what a paradigm would represent. Now, you never utilize paradigms outside of your kind of Luciferian ideology as you establish it. So you wouldn't pretend or put on a deific mask of a Christian or an angel and attempt to do something there. That's worthless and pointless. It's self-degrading. You would always use left-hand path ideological foundations. But there's so many different deific masks to work with. Paradigms aren't really totally interchangeable. Chaos magic uses paradigms opposites constantly, all over the place. Luciferian doesn't use paradigms to that extent. Ours is very narrow, based on our grounding of ideology and initiation. Someone wanted to speak of simple ideas behind pantheon culture shifting, mixing, and avoiding confusion or overwhelming when it gets going. Okay, so how would you work with pantheons, say Mesopotamian, which is like Babylonian, and the Canaanite, Ugaritic, which is like the Syrian? How would you work with those, even though they're the same time period? Well, one of the things that I wanted to break down the barriers of was culture and see how things actually worked in those time periods based on records. And what I found was, like a center city like Mari, which is an ancient trade city in Syria, or Ibla, which was right there also. These were kind of the crossroads of Mesopotamia and Canaanite. And you see all the gods blend in there. Now, you can work with a Canaanite deity, like say Baal Hadad. And then you can go work with a storm god from Mesopotamia, such as Enlil. Okay, you can work with those because take away all the imagery and the representations. What do you have? The essence, storm god, mastery, establishing order. That's what they both represent if you take all those things away. That's your common denominator. That's how that is brought together. Leviathan, or Yam, would be invoked for primordial workings, while Tiamat would be invoked for more in-depth dreaming and kind of dark shadow workings that goes a few steps beyond Leviathan. Leviathan was not a creator like Tiamat, who was the mother of all life. But Leviathan represents primordial, raw energy. So you can work with Greek, because you have the Hellenic after Alexander the Great. Their culture was assimilated into the Persian and the Babylonian and Assyrian. And deities such as Apollo is associated with Rapesh, the plague god and arrow god of the Canaanites. And then you have Baal, who is with Egyptian and Canaanite interaction from the New Kingdom, assimilated with Set. So Baal, Set, that's the interplay of different pantheons. And often when you're focusing on them, just beginning, keep it simple towards one. And then as you get used to it or want to explore it, then you can add on to it. Someone says they want to gather enough grave dirt to fill a good-sized pot and place it close to my bed because they can't enter a cemetery for necromancy and dream workings. Yes, totally. You can take soil and consecrate it in a pot by your bed. I recommend your own blood. I recommend anything like that, something personal. And if you're doing Mask and Holes, necromancy, or Dragon Two Flames, you're going to get something other than those pantheons, I promise you. It's not going to be jarbled speaking shades. You're going to get different impulses from different time periods. It's just the practice of necromancy. Dreaming necromancy is performing an invocation, asking a question, focusing on the spirit pot or whatever you're invoking, and then sleeping. Your dreams will be fluid from that. That opens a gateway. So those were one interesting parts towards Dragon Two Flames questions. We're going to hit the second right now. As far as Dragon of the Two Flames and Mask and Hole are concerned, there's some very intense connections found within the concept of the underworld and different methods of invocation and the purposes therein. I can tell you that every ritual that you'll do in both of those books will usually have a twofold purpose. One is to establish contact and entry towards your daemon, and that can be by rituals of entering hell or the underworld. Also building Malamu, or the black flame, through meditation. The 7 chakra points, invoking Nergal, or any of the other gods for establishing control. But all this feeds into your daemon, your true will. So each one will enhance those specific areas. For instance, in Dragon of the Two Flames, the incantation of Horon, the Lord of Demons, you will know him via Aleister Crowley as Choronzon from John Dee. Horon was actually a underworld demon who was very popular and worshipped by the military of New Kingdom Egypt around the time of the Sea Peoples and thereafter. Horon appeared as a sphinx, but also as a predatory hawk, and along with Chemosh could keep poisons away from people, but also dwelled among them and had many flying demons at his command. Invoking Horon allows you to put your subconscious and your conscious mind directed towards the balance of predator and prey, and understanding your role in nature and observing nature around you daily. There's one of incantation of Horon, the god of darkness, caves, and powers of chaos. Very important in that you're going to start to shape personal darkness and chaos towards your own creation. In Maskum Hol, the incantation of Esret Nabnisu, and that translates basically to summon the powers of darkness who bear Malamu, mantles of radiance. That is the 11 chaos dragons of Tiamat that were created, so you will focus them as Kingu and bringing them within to really illuminate that aspect. Now, the necromancy aspect, you can build a small pit in a yard, in your backyard. You can build it in a graveyard, in the woods, whatever you want to do, and have a small designated chalice, if you will, or offering bowl, a phial, and pour libation in honor of the gods after you recite an incantation. And generally these are to establish a center with your daemon and your current embodied self with the traits of the ancient warrior cultures and towards what you want to do today. So it's not calling back some old culture, it's about what you're doing today and tomorrow. With that said, the question of, can you perform vampiric exercises with Maskum Hol or Dragon of the Two Flames? Yes, indeed you can. And Maskum Hol is actually structured in a way that vampirism is a central theme, if you can notice it. And it centers around the 7 evil gods, and Tiamat, Kingu, and the manifestations of darkness. Using the Lilu spirits, you can astrally and dream project by invoking and then going forth using chords or what have you. Throughout Dragon of Two Flames, there are potentials for predatory spiritualism, vampirism. I'll point you back to the Aramaic incantation bowls, sigils, but then also the ensorcelment of Malak Mawet, which is the Aramaic Mot, the angel of death, and then dream rituals of the evil eye. These are very, very important. Evil eye is the demonic force of the Kesapim, or Kasapu, the sorcerer. And then finally the incantation of Igi Mushus, which is a vampiric dream state transformation and projection. Working with these, you absorb energy in everything you do. Every god you invoke, deific mask, you absorb that energy and you retain it through the 7 chakras. You can also feed from chakras in such a way as well. So as you can see, if you were to take Maskum Hol and Dragon with the Two Flames with a little bit of patience and some insight into the codes, because they aren't codes in kind of ciphers, not because I'm playing games, but simply that's how my subconscious manifests these works. So there's different levels of knowledge, and I encourage each one of you to explore it according to your own desire. Thanks.